Well, Mr. R, here we are. Mr. R, he says to me on the phone, this is part one, by the way. Part two is going to be, I'm going to sell a radio with this thing to this guy. So, I got my buddy down there, Zane at Big Rig Radio. He's drop shipped me a new stryker that we're going to hook up to this amp. But, Mr. R sends me this box 3-4 months ago and says, hey man, I lost output power. I want you to check it out. It's not doing what it should. I said, cool, send it up. Well, he gets up here and I finally am able to get free to be able to work on this thing. And I start tearing through it and I figure out a couple different things. Let's put that down on 1X. Let's go around the band here real quick. That's a 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 in average, 5 watt slug in reverse. We're going to use a 955, and of course the 5 watt slug between the 955 and the straight 6. Let's see. Okay, look, you get in this game and you start being able to tell when you start doing a lot of repairs who built what and when and where. And I can tell Dottie built this one. She's a very gifted person. She builds a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Anywho, I noticed as soon as I took the tin off that I had one resistor that had gotten a little scooched, a little scorched, a little hot. And so what this tells me is that we had one of the 3 2-pill sections go out. Now, all the pills in this thing, they're all stock. Beautiful Toshibas. All the resistors are stock. When I see none of the 10 ohmers were burnt, that's when I thought, well, it's got to be one of the output caps. So I went to looking, and of course, this is what was in there. These little 500 volt, 150, 5% Mylar polymer capacitors. Oh, I dropped one. It was bad. This one here has a rating of about 75, and the rest of these are 150s and 147. So I went ahead and I removed those and replaced them with big 140s at 1,000 volts. So get a little bit more wiggle room there as far as its tolerance to heat. The other thing I did is I replaced the output resistors. Instead of using 2 watts, I used 5. And then I gave it the full power wire upgrade. Now, when it showed up, it had this little guy on it. That is a 50 amp Anderson clip. Guys, please, for the love of Jesus, God, and everything holy in this world, stop using these little 50 amp Anderson clips unless they're on a 2-pill or a 1x2. This has got 6 transistors in it. This is going to pull about 110, 115 amps fully loaded out. 3 times what this little clip and those tiny little connectors can carry. So I went ahead, I took the little small power wire out of this thing, replaced it with Stinger 8 gauge, 2 leads of it, which will easily carry 150 amps, a foot or two. And then I put a 100 amp, see how much bigger and prettier that is, 100 amp Anderson clip with these big contact points. Really help the amperage get inside the box. Put an Anderson clip on there, 100 amp. Now I hydraulically crimped this, then I drilled them out and I soldered them. So they're soldered, hydraulically crimped, and heat shrinked. The other thing I did is I built you a new eyelet. Here's your stock eyelet, Mr. R. I put a new one on there. I used an 0 gauge ring terminal. I went and hydraulically crimped it, soldered it, and heat shrinked it. Okay. Also added the upgraded power wire. Now, he tells me on the phone, he goes, man, I haven't thought a whole lot about the box because somebody broke in my truck, they stole my radio. Man, are you kidding me? So I felt bad for the guy and I told him, dude, let me go get you a new radio. And he asked me, well, what kind of radio suggest? I love the Strykers. They've got great receive, and now that we're on like Gen 75,000 of these, they've worked all the little bugs out of them. What I mean by Gen 75,000 is, well, Stryker's got a thing where they'll get these chipsets for about the cheapest that they can find them, and then they'll completely redesign the processor and all the board layout around the chipset. Go forward about a year, new set of chips come out. They can get them cheaper in China. They completely redesign the processor set. So they've had about 10 or 12 or 13 different generations of this, as far as I can count. Now, I'm not a radio guy. All my attention is spent working, thinking about these. But I do know enough to follow along with the radio sets. So like the one that's up here, I think is like Gen 7 or 8. I've got 2 or 3 more sitting over there in boxes, and they're all different generations on the inside. They look the same on the board layout for the primary board, but the controller board, the board that's in the front of the radio, is different. But they're a good radio. They got a good solid receive, good filters in them for the most part. They're a solid radio. But I can guarantee you, if he gets that radio and runs it into this amplifier, this thing will last forever. So I went ahead and I gave him the full Monty, full up deal. There was a tiny little disc capacitor in here, something that we'd normally use as an output tuning cap for a single 2-pill section. Possibly a 4, probably a 4-pill section on a good day. Instead of having to worry about that cap breaking down and giving him problems and fits down the road, I went ahead and I removed it, put a trombone or capacitor, sliding capacitor, tube in there, soldered it in nice and solid, and I think he's set. So Mr. R, here we go. I also upgraded all the power wires, got rid of these little things. Put this thing in here. Now, we're going to shut the amp off, and we're going to start the test as we always do. First, I'm going to show you drive. 1000 watt PEP on 1X. Hello, 90 watts. Talking through the box. Hello, audio. Which is good. Those low numbers make us very happy. Because remember, we've got a good pass-through SWR. It means you're going to have a great receive. Because if you can talk smoothly through the box, that's a good thing. All right. Hello. Hello. Of course, we're going to bury it off into the corner. Hello, audio. Get about 1200 out of it. Look at our input tune. Hello, audio. Nice and low. Nice and low. Beautiful, beautiful box. Let's run our dead key up a little bit. This thing is like retarded sensitive, by the way. Let's turn our 5-watt slug around. So we're at half a watt. Run up to 1.5 watts. So we're going to put a 1.5 watt dead key in this thing. Remember, we're on 14 volts. So 1.5 doesn't really translate to much. It's about 3-4 watts right there. Hello. Hello. Let's go ahead and take this to 2x. So now full deflection is 2000 watts. So our 1000 watt scale is going to be right here. Every major mark is going to be another 200. Hello. 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 Now we're not even tickling what this box can do. We're cruising well north of 1000 watts now. That's what it's going to do with a 955 hitting it. So let's go ahead and we're going to disconnect that. Now we're going to hook up our Connex 4400, which dead keys more, puts out more. Of course, it's got a little 4-FET MOSFET amplifier on the bottom of it. Not LD MOS, but MOSFET. They're completely different. There's 1400 watts. Now before we get too excited, let's take this back down to 1x. Hello, audio. About 120 watts of drive is all we're going to put into this thing. Kick that back up to 2x. Hello. Hello, audio. Now I want you to watch the input tune here. That's a 5-watt slug that's sitting between the radio and the straight 6. So we're under a watt. Hello. Hello, audio. You see how that's falling back? The needle is dropping back. What that means is the higher we go with drive, the more in resonance the circuit's going to get, which is beautiful. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. About 14 some change. We could drive it up and get about 15.5 on 14 volts out of this thing, but nah, I think our point's proven. Anyhow, Mr. R, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this other Anderson clip with you. Now, I strongly suggest that you take at least 4 gauge, hook it up to your battery, and run 4 gauge directly to this thing. Now, you can crimp these any which way you want, but what I tell everybody to do, now there's a notched side and then a round side. You want to crimp this however you want to crimp it, and then drill a hole in the top portion of this on the rounded side. Drill a little hole here, then you're going to heat it up with a torch and feed the solder in through the hole, and it'll wick around the inside of that thing and allow you to have a soldered connection, which makes a huge difference in how much these can actually carry. Hydraulically crimped, they rate these for 100 amps. You solder it, you can go a little bit further. Now underneath max pressure drive with just the radio, just the 4400 hitting it. Watch the amp gauge. The amp gauge is the red digits on the bottom right. Audio. We're seeing about 157 through 140 worth of amp draw. And you got to think that little tiny pressure connection. Because remember, these Anderson clips, they work off pressure, right? So inside the clip, when you put the clip into the clip, you're going to have this little terminal. It's actually going to sit like this. And then the opposite side is going to sit like this. They slide over each other. So all the amperage has to go through that one connection. It's all done by pressure. Okay? There's not a mechanical connection other than the pressure. So it's a very passive surface contact. But these will carry the load a whole lot better than what this little guy will. 50 amps only, you guys. And I really mean 50 amps. I get 667s. I get all kinds of amps that show up here all the time with them little 50 amp Anderson clips on them, and I just cringe. We change the Anderson clip out, and all of a sudden the box picks up 150 watts. If you see loss of power, that means you have amperage restriction. Amperage restriction means the transistor's working harder. It's going to pull even more current through the connector. It's just a never-ending downward spiral. There we go. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time talking tonight. Anyhow, Mr. R, you're all good to go. I'm going to put the lid on it. I'll get with you tomorrow. Like I said, this is part 1. Part 2 will probably be Monday or Tuesday of this week coming up. And we'll get the radio all squared away for you, and we'll get this done. Okay, man, part 2. So, Rich, what we got here is a 955. This is the big daddy. Everybody loves this radio. It's brand new out of the box. Not a whole lot's been done to this radio. It's pretty virginal, which is kind of the way you want to leave it. Now, with this radio running into your 6-pill, this thing is going to make this box loaf. We're going to get about 1,000 watts out of this box on 14 volts, which is good. Let me explain to you why it's good. Because if you loaf into a straight 6, you've got the oversize of the heat sink, plus you're not max saturating the transistors, and you're going to get an insane amount of key down time. Now, Rich, you don't have to worry about nothing. With that radio running into this amplifier, you can key till the cows come home. No joke. Now, the radio's got a cutoff in it. It's designed so that, like, if you get the microphone locked down, like you throw this in your cup holder and you lock the mic down, it'll shut itself off before it gets too hot and burns up. It's the only thing that's going to stop you from keying. This amp running with that radio, key forever. 1,000 watt slug in PEP, 1,000 watt slug in average, 5 watt slug in reverse, back from the bird, 10,000 watt dummy load. Stryker 955 into the 6-pill. So let me show you this. Audio. About 80-90 watts of drive. I turn the 6-pill on. It's got a nice quiet 120 millimeter fan, because we're not driving the holy dog shit out of this thing. Now, you can put up to 125 watts of drive, so you can use like a Connex 4400 or something with a 90 watt radio going into this 6-pill. Key forever kind of thing. 80-90 watts of drive. 1,000 watts. Now, we're not going to get a ton of bird out of it, because like I said, we haven't modified this too much. Now, I got the dead key set at 1.5 watts. It's actually pointed at the radio loop. Got the dead key set at 1.5 watts. and then at 5 watts. So here's a full dead key. So you're getting a dead key about 200 with it all the way up. Just turn this all the way down. You're going to get about 30 watts with it all the way down. And run it right about there. Okay. About 180 watts, 200 watt dead key. Rich, the last thing I'm going to give you is this. This will probably be the last coax you ever buy. This is 18 feet of the beautiful high dollar, high quality, mil spec RG400 coax. This is Teflon dual shield stranded center conductor, beautiful coax. It's kind of stiff, but it's bulletproof. And then the other thing I'm going to send with the amp is I'm going to send the other end of the Anderson clip for the amplifier connector. But Rich, that's it, my friend. I appreciate you sending this thing up to me, giving me a chance to get this thing all put together for you and back up and running. I appreciate you letting me hook you up with this, matching this to that. Now, guys, don't get excited. I'm not in this game. This is my game. Not this, this. There was special circumstances. I called Rich when it finally came his time for me to work on this box, and he told me, he goes, well, I haven't been too worried about the radio. And I said, well, why is that? And he goes, well, I parked my truck, and the guy stole the radio right out of my truck. So I don't even have a radio to run into that anymore. Oh, son of a gun. Let me help you out. So for one time only, just kind of a special deal, I hooked my friend up. You're all set. Gentlemen, my name is BBI, and without a shadow of a doubt, I am the biggest mud duck in Idaho. Come check us out, www.bbiamps.com. Come find me on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. And of course, if you're watching me right here on YouTube, which, well, if you're watching this, then you are, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I don't get to be here without your guys' support. I don't get to do this stuff unless you guys call me or willing to work with me or willing to be patient enough to work with me. And working with me is a exercise in patience. It seems like it takes forever to get me to do anything, but it's because I got so many other things going on so many other levels. I'm very busy, and I appreciate everybody being super sensitive to that and everybody being supportive to me in this business for you guys in this hobby. So on that note, Rich, I'm out of here. Gentlemen, I'm out of here. Peace. On to the next project. I'll see you guys. Bump, bump.